Access to clean water. You know, it's one of those things that's so fundamental, you'd think it would just be a given for everyone. But for billions of people, it's a daily, life-threatening crisis. But here's the thing, and this is the most important part. It's a crisis we can actually solve. We have the tools, we have the knowledge, so let's dive in and see what that really looks like.
First, let's just get a handle on the sheer scale of the problem. That number right there, 2.1 billion. Let that sink in for a second. That's how many people on this planet do not have access to safely managed drinking water. And safely managed isn't some luxury. It just means water that's right there where you live, available when you need it, and, not contaminated. More than a third of the world's population is going without this absolute basic necessity. And this number, this one really hits you. 200 million hours. That's the amount of time that women and girls spend every single day just walking to get water. That's time they're not in school, time they're not earning an income, time they're not with their families. It's an unbelievable burden that just traps entire communities in a cycle of poverty.
So this brings us to a really, really important question that changes how you look at everything. You hear it all the time, right? The world's running out of water. But is that the real story? Or is this actually a crisis of management, of broken infrastructure, of deep inequality? Well, the evidence is pretty overwhelming. The problem isn't that the water isn't there, it's that we failed to build the systems to get it to the people who need it most.
And that's why we need this fundamental shift in how we think. The moment we stop looking at water access as a nice act of charity and start seeing it for what it is, a non-negotiable human right, everything changes. It creates a completely different level of responsibility and accountability. So, what does this right to water actually mean? It's not about unlimited free water for golf courses, okay? The UN's definition is really specific. It's about having enough, safe, clean water for the essentials: drinking, cooking, basic hygiene. And it has to be physically accessible, meaning you don't have to walk for hours to get it. And it absolutely must be affordable, so that paying your water bill doesn't mean you can't afford food.
Okay, so what does that look like in the real world? Well, when water is treated as a right, governments suddenly have very clear duties. They can't discriminate. They have to put the poorest and most marginalized communities at the front of the line. And maybe most importantly, local people have to have a real say in the decisions about their water, with actual legal ways to hold leaders accountable if things go wrong.
So, if this is a systems problem, not a scarcity problem, then what's in our toolkit? This is the most exciting part of this whole story. We don't need to wait for some magical new invention. The solutions are already here. They're tested, they're proven, and they're ready to go, right now. First up, we've got to make our infrastructure way smarter, and that's where smart water grids come in. Just think of it like adding a nervous system to our water pipes. Use a bunch of tiny sensors, the Internet of Things, that are constantly checking water quality, pressure, and flow, and then feeding all that data back in real time. And this simple comparison shows you exactly why that's a total game changer. Our old systems, they're completely reactive. A huge pipe bursts, water floods the street, a crew rushes out, and millions of gallons are already gone. But smart grids, they're proactive. The AI can look at the data and say, hey, that pipe is under a lot of stress. It's probably going to break next week. And you can fix it before it ever becomes a disaster. And the results are, well, they're just incredible. We're talking about cutting water loss from leaks by 20 to 40%. I mean, that is a mind-boggling amount of water saved. And on top of that, you're also cutting energy costs by 15 to 30% because the system is running so much more efficiently. It's just better in every single way. All right, so beyond upgrading what we have, we can also create brand new sources of fresh water. And two of the most promising frontiers are renewable-powered desalination, turning seawater into fresh water, and something called atmospheric water harvesting, which literally pulls clean drinking water right out of thin air. Now, the big argument against desalination was always that it used a ton of energy and was super expensive. But that's just not the case anymore. First, you power the whole thing with solar, so you get rid of the emissions. Second, you build them in these modular shipping container-sized units, so you can set them up in weeks, not years. And that's brought the cost way down, making it a totally viable option for so many places. But honestly, for all the cool technology, maybe the most powerful tool in the entire toolkit isn't a high-tech gadget at all. It's about putting the power, the knowledge, and the ownership of water systems directly into the hands of local communities.
And this chart just says it all. When an outside group comes in, drills a well, and then leaves, the long-term success rate is often less than 50%. Because when it breaks, nobody's there to fix it. But when the community itself builds it, owns it, and manages it, the functionality rate shoots up to over 90%. That right there is what sustainability actually looks like.
Okay, so we've got the human rights framework, we've got the toolkit, but does this stuff actually work out in the real world? You bet it does. Let's look at some proof from organizations that are making this happen on the ground. Let's start with WaterAid. Just last year, they helped over 872,000 people get clean water. But they don't just show up and drill wells. Their projects, like Project Boond in India, are amazing. They integrate health and hygiene education, they build systems that can withstand climate change, and they always focus on making sure women and girls are the ones who benefit the most.
Or check out Water for People and their Everyone Forever model. Their approach is wild. They work with an entire district until every single person has sustainable water service, and they don't leave until the job is done. And the results are undeniable. Their wells stay working 95% of the time, compared to a global average that's barely 60%. It's so effective they've gotten a perfect rating from Charity Navigator for 20 years in a row.
And this quote from Bruce Palmer, who's a donor to WaterAid, just nails it. It's not about dropping in and disappearing. It's about empowering the community to lead the way. That's the secret sauce. That's how you create change that actually lasts.
And if you're someone who wonders where the money actually goes, well, groups like WaterAid are incredibly efficient. Take a look. A full 90 cents of every dollar goes directly into programming. The pipes, the training, the actual work on the ground. That's about as direct as impact gets.
So, we've seen the problem, we've looked at the incredible toolkit of solutions, and we've seen proof that it works. So what's stopping us? What's the final barrier to making clean water a reality for every single person? Well, it turns out the barrier isn't technical, it's human.
Look, the path to solving this crisis is laid out right in front of us. The tools, from smart grids to community-led projects, they are here. They exist right now. And the knowledge, from decades of hard work in the field, is absolutely proven to work. We know how to do this.
And that really brings us to the final critical point. The challenge isn't a shortage of water. It isn't a shortage of technology or brilliant ideas. It's a shortage of collective political will, the global commitment to say, this is not acceptable, and we are going to make this a priority for everyone on the planet, period.
It's so easy to look at a number like 2.1 billion and just feel completely overwhelmed. But I hope the one thing you take away from all this is a real sense of optimism. Because with the right approach, with the right tools, and with the will to actually do it, this is, without a single doubt, a solvable crisis.